Welcome to Trauma in Our Veins, where we unpack the chaos of being human, from parenting, mental health, trauma, and everything in between. I'm Maggie.
I'm Erica. Our ground rules are simple. This is a safe space, so be kind. Respect differing opinions. Maggie and I use she, her pronouns for ourselves, and we speak from experience, not misinformation.
Welcome back, listeners. Hope everyone is surviving out there. So, today, it's just going to be me, Maggie. This is going to be a solo episode, and the reason why is because this week, well, actually starting on April 19th until the 25th, it is Infertility Awareness Week. So that is why I wanted to do this episode alone, because this is an important week for me. This is something that directly impacts my life, and it's a very important week of advocacy and just spreading awareness about infertility. So to start us off, I want to explain what infertility is, and then we're going to go over some statistics and things about treatment and cause and the cost of treatments. So, infertility is a disease of the reproductive system defined by the inability to achieve pregnancy after 12 months or more of regular unprotected sexual intercourse. It affects roughly 15% of couples, with causes stemming equally from male factors, female factors, or both. So I will get into a little bit more of that as we go along. So for statistics, some of the key ones, roughly 17.5% of the adult population worldwide experiences infertility. For women in the U.S., 13.7% of women aged 20 to 49 have used fertility services. Fertility declines significantly after age 35, with women in their 30s about half as fertile as in their early 20s. Now, to point something out, when somebody is also struggling with infertility in their 20s, age really doesn't matter, because if they're already struggling with that in their 20s when they are their most fertile, obviously in their 30s, it begins to be harder. So for causes, about 1/3 of cases are due to women's factors, 1/3 to men's, and the rest a combination or unknown. There's still a lot of research that needs to happen. This is the one area that is the most underfunded and under-researched. For treatment, 85 to 90% of cases are treated with conventional therapies, so like medication or surgery. So there's fertility treatments, there's injections, and then for surgery, there is like obviously IVF. There's also sometimes people have to get their, I can't remember the like exact medical term, but drilling in their ovaries or uterus if their like uterine wall is too thick. So there's a lot of different treatments out there, but the success rate of those treatments is a different story. So for IVF, a single round of IVF can range from $15,000 to $30,000. And I want to point out too that most insurances do not cover IVF. And if they do, they only cover maybe like up to $5,000 of that. So really, the rest is coming out of pocket. So I have talked to people that have had to sell their cars or their house to get IVF. That's just crazy. The success rate, the average number of cycles needed to become pregnant versus IVF is 2.5. So again, IVF is not a guarantee. And so there's a misconception about that. As of 2024, 19 states in the U.S. are required some form of insurance coverage for infertility treatment. Again, some form. So it is not fully covered, and it's only in 19 states out of 50. So that also I just want to highlight here. So for causes and factors, there's a lot that can go into this. So I'm only going to be naming some of the most common ones. So that could be like tubular factors, that's about 20 to 35%, uterine factors, 10 to 15%. And then there's also diseases called endometriosis or PCOS, otherwise known as polycystic ovarian syndrome. Then there's male infertility. This is often caused by low sperm production, abnormal sperm function, or blockages. Then there's lifestyle to consider. This could be with body weight, either being too low or too high, or just some other issues going on physically or physiologically that could be preventing it from happening. So there are a lot of other unknown factors because there's, again, not enough research in reproductive health, not as much as there are in like other medical areas. So there's a way more research into men and their like sperm count versus women and our some of the health issues we face. So again, just goes to show how it really hasn't been about equality for forever. So this week, like I said, is National Infertility Awareness Week. This started as a movement in 1989 by the organization called Resolve, the National Infertility and Family Building Association. So they began in the 80s, and their mission is to empower us and change the conversation around infertility. It is observed every April to show legislators and the public that infertility is an issue that affects many and deserves comprehensive healthcare coverage. This movement is dedicated to reduce stigma and educate the public about reproductive health and the challenges many face in building a family. This initiative also aims to empower those whose lives are profoundly impacted by infertility. This week is an opportunity for us to come together, raise our voices, and discuss the critical issues affecting the infertility community. It's a time to ensure we continue to support those who need it most. Because infertility can affect anyone, regardless of race, religion, sexuality, or economic status. The World Health Organization estimates that roughly 1 in 6 people worldwide are affected by infertility. This does not include LGBTQ plus couples and individuals choosing to parent without a partner who may need assisted reproductive medical treatments to start and grow their families. So this is specifically couples. And one thing I want to highlight here is that when I first started working with Resolve in 2018 to be an advocate, it was 1 in 8 couples, and it is now 1 in 6. So that is a pretty significant difference. And of course, following the Trump administration's executive order on IVF in February, more eyes are on the practice of reproductive medicine than ever. It's important that we advocate year-round for a patient's right to infertility care and providers' right to practice, but your voice and expertise are especially important right now, and we all need to be a part of this conversation. So, some of the key aspects of this movement and this week is this year, the theme is the More Than campaign, which emphasizes that individuals are more than a diagnosis, more than the silence often surrounding this issue. It's significant because it serves to raise awareness, educate the public, and advocate for insurance coverage and legal rights to family building. People are encouraged to wear orange, share their stories on social media, or participate in local events to support those dealing with infertility. So right now, this week, you're probably seeing a lot of posts with the hashtag wear orange, and that, if you don't know what that is, it's for this. The campaign seeks to inform the public that infertility affects everyone, regardless of age, race, or income, and that it is a medical issue affecting women and men. In the US alone, more than 100,000 babies are born through IVF in a single year, so this highlights the high demand for care and research. Now, if you're wondering, how can I support somebody that's going through infertility? Because I guarantee you know at least one person in your life that is going through it, whether they talk about it openly or not. So, supporting someone with infertility involves active listening, validating their pain without trying to fix it, and offering specific help. So, avoid unsolicited advice. Acknowledge the difficult milestones and be sensitive when sharing pregnancy news. And educate yourself on the journey to reduce their burden of explaining and offer consistent, gentle support. This is huge. This is something that I have been trying to preach for years. I have posted so many things on social media about how to talk to someone or care for somebody that's going through infertility, because I will tell you, about 99% of the time, people say the wrong thing. People try to give unsolicited advice. I can't even count the number of times I've been told to try this or try that. Have you tried this supplement? Have you tried doing this sex position? Have you tried, going on vacation and just relaxing? Have you tried looking into infertility treatments in Europe because it's, actually covered there? So many things. Like, I could go on and on. Have you tried exercise? Have you tried losing weight? Have you tried eating better? Have you tried cutting things out of your diet? Have you tried taking aspirin and blah, blah, blah? Like, literally, the list is endless. The unsolicited advice is a real issue. And I know that this goes for pretty much any, problem, diagnosis, disease that anyone may struggle with. But I will say, for infertility alone, it is a huge problem that people feel the need to fix it, or they get uncomfortable with your pain and struggle, and so they don't know what to say. So then they say the first thing that pops into their head. So, if you are someone that knows someone going through infertility, please just validate them. Please just sit there and listen. Allow them to bitch. Allow them to vent. Allow them to cry. Don't. And even if you're uncomfortable with somebody crying, who the fuck cares? Just sit there. Sit in the pain with them. Because I guarantee you that will make the world of a difference if you are really just there to support and not offer advice. Because I can tell you, it is so frustrating to have to tell, especially family members, over and over, I've tried so many things. Please stop offering me different things to try or different advice, because I guarantee you I've tried majority, if not all, and guess what? What worked for Susie might not work for me, because all bodies are going to be different and respond differently to treatment and medication and other things out there. So it's really just important to listen without fixing, so just be there. Let them know you're available to listen. Avoid, advice and the cliches. So don't just say, oh, relax, or everything happens for a reason, or you can always adopt. These minimize the pain. Instead, maybe say, wow, I can't imagine how hard this is. Because you can't unless you've been through it. You cannot imagine it unless you've been through it. So instead of saying, oh, or another big thing, don't use religious statements to comfort people. Don't say, oh, God has a plan for you, or God will provide you for you, and I'm praying that God will give you the family you want, and blah, blah, blah. I've heard so many different things, and it's wrapped around, religious advice or religious comfort. And to be honest, it it has pushed me, or like I have pushed people away because of that, those cliche statements. It makes me cringe. So I really, like, instead of just trying to be like, oh yeah, this is so awkward and uncomfortable, so I'm just gonna say I'm praying for you, or God will give you what you want. It's all in God's timing, things like that. Like, it's just, ugh, no more. So don't do that. Um, and also be mindful of pregnancy announcements. So if you're pregnant, share the news privately with the person you know that has infertility via text or email, so that way you allow them time to process their emotions without them needing to react immediately. So, for instance, we've had family members and friends, they would invite us over and just say, oh, like, let's hang out. And we would go over thinking we're just hanging out, eating food, watching a movie. And then they drop the bomb on us that they're pregnant. And, in hindsight, I can look back and say they had good intentions. They were trying to be mindful of our struggle, and they didn't want to, like, publicly announce it, in front of a whole group or put us on the spot like that. But I will say that even with inviting us over essentially under false pretensions, that isn't much better. Like, we've been blindsided quite a few times by that. And it's so hard because we immediately have to mask. We immediately have to pretend we're excited. And it's not that we aren't happy for them. We are. It's just so painful. It's so hard to see everybody else doing the thing that you can't do when it's all you've wanted. And so that's something, huge that I want to point out, is just be mindful of your announcements. Be mindful how you tell your loved ones who have infertility. Don't blindside them. Don't make things awkward. Don't make it a whole ordeal, and don't say stuff like, "Oh, we didn't tell you because blah blah blah." Like, no. So if you're going to hide it, that's not better either. So, like, be mindful of how you announce it. Don't walk on eggshells. Don't hide it. Don't make it this big secret. Don't make it weird, okay? Uh and then as far as, like, what help you can offer, instead of saying stuff like, let me know if you need anything, offer concrete help. Like, can I bring dinner over on Tuesday? Or can I walk your dog? So when you're in the midst of grief, when dealing with infertility, a lot of the normal, like, life things that you have to do, like taking care of the house, making dinner, sometimes you just can't bring yourself to do it because you are in that grief, and it's just so heavy and all consuming. And so think of it this way, like, when somebody dies and you go to a funeral, think about how many people start, like, a meal train. Think about the support that people offer to people that are grieving a loved one. They bring over food. They offer to help take care of, like, menial tasks for them, doing their errands, things like that. I'll mow your lawn. People offer support. Why can't it be the same for this? You know? So that's something I want to point out too. And another thing too is, like, acknowledge important dates. So a huge one would be Mother's Day and Father's Day. I would say those are probably the hardest holidays for us, or for anyone that has infertility. It's really hard to acknowledge and celebrate those days. And so if you know somebody, just text them or tell them you're thinking of them. It means a lot. You don't have to buy us flowers or a gift, but just even telling us you're thinking of us because it's Mother's Day or Father's Day, it means a lot. It means that people notice and can acknowledge the milestones, and another thing too is, like, if there were due dates. So if someone had a miscarriage and they had a due date and they lost their baby, like, acknowledge that. And also, continue to invite them to events. Even if they decline a lot, let them know they're always welcome without pressuring them. This one is huge. And it hits home because I can't tell you how many people or how many friends or family members we have lost, or just we no longer have contact with them because when we were in the midst of grief and people were inviting us to parties and events, because guess what? They were still living their normal lives going on while we were stuck in the middle of some of the heaviest grief we've ever been through. And yeah, our mental health wasn't the greatest. So we would decline a lot, or say, oh, just, feeling sick or just not feeling it. Like back in our people pleasing days, I feel like we would have to mask a lot or lie about why we couldn't show up. But honestly, that has been a huge thing, is like, I really wish that people would understand, like, you shouldn't just stop inviting people because they say no. You don't know what that person is carrying. You don't know what they're going through. So keep inviting them because they need to know that they're still cared for, thought about, and loved, and not forgotten. And most importantly, respect their boundaries. So if they can't make it to a baby shower or event, understand that they're trying to protect their mental health. It has nothing to do with you. So in the last few years, I have made the decision to not go to other people's baby showers. That is one thing that I just cannot do, and it's to protect myself. It has nothing to do with the person who invited me. It doesn't mean I'm not happy for them, but it's really hard for me to be at an event like that and to pretend that I'm okay when I'm not, and I just want to go crawl in a corner and cry in the fetal position. So I made the decision, nah, I'm not going to do baby showers anymore. So again, this isn't to offend anyone. It's just to make it known that, like, we have boundaries to protect ourselves from the hurt and the pain. So respect them, please. Now, if you're looking for ways to support, you can donate to organizations like the one I mentioned, Resolve. They're one of the bigger organizations for national infertility, and they are a wonderful organization. I've been working with them since 2018 as an advocate. So that's another area. You can become an advocate even if you don't have infertility yourself, but you know someone who does. You can still be an advocate for them. Use your voice for those that can't use their voice. Write to your reps. Ask your local state officials, and also like state senators and then congressmen, like those that represent your state. Write to them and ask for more infertility coverage, for more bills that bring not only awareness and education to the public, but also protections in place, and make it more affordable for treatments and accessible for those that maybe have low income. Because guess what? Infertility treatments and IVF are stupid expensive. For instance, like, and granted, this was in a few years ago, so this is before all the inflation shit started. So I can only imagine it's gone up. But one injection, and mind you, when you're going through treatments, you're constantly injecting yourself with medication. It sucks. But on top of it, it's expensive. Very expensive. Like, I remember, I'm pretty sure one injection that I had to do, it was $100 for each syringe or whatever. That's crazy. So yeah, advocate, write to your reps, post on social media. And if you're seeing posts already about infertility, like, repost, and share, because the more traction that stuff gets, the more awareness is out there. And if you are someone that is struggling with infertility and you feel ready to share your story, if you feel ready to share your story, then share it, because the more we all share collectively, the more people will really understand. One, those who have infertility won't feel so alone, but two, it will gain more traction and awareness so that people are educated and can actually know what's going on. And if you're not the one who's struggling with it and you have a loved one, ask them if they would be open or comfortable with you helping share their story. So don't just do it behind their back. Like, make sure you have consent, but check with your loved ones and ask them if they would like that help or support to share their story. Another way is being a sponsor. If you're in a position to do so, you can sponsor Resolve or other organizations. That is what I wanted to share as far as Infertility Awareness Week. So this week is pretty important for those of us. And I wanted to get into my story a little bit. Now, I apologize in advance if I bounce around a little bit. I did try to make it concise and in order as far as like timeline, but I'm sure it's not perfect. But this is my story, and this is a story that I share with David because he's my husband and it has impacted him as much as it has impacted me. So when we first got married, I had a miscarriage. Now, a little backstory to that was right before we got married, I went off of birth control because my doctor told me that I would need to get off of it if I ever wanted to try to have kids, even if I wasn't ready to at that moment. So I ended up having a miscarriage, and we didn't even know that I was pregnant. And it was shortly after I got off birth control, which is a very common thing and can happen because birth control can really mess with your hormones. And then when you get off of it, your hormones are like, whoa, holy shit. So I was 21, and so this was during a time when we weren't ready to have kids for a lot of reasons, especially financial. But this was also when I was just told that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I was told that I may not be able to have kids. So I was basically warned about that possibility when I was 21. And PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, is a disorder that affects your hormones, reproductive health, adrenal glands. You get cysts on your ovaries. It can affect your thyroid and metabolic system. It's a disease and can also be considered autoimmune because of the organs it impacts. I started having PCOS symptoms at 15 years old, but was misdiagnosed for 6 years. My cycle has been irregular since I was 15. And again, I was told it was so many other things until I was 21, and I was finally told what it really was. So that was a pretty big shock for us and a lot to process. So our journey is complex. It's filled with hope, pain, disappointment, fear, and grief. We began trying to grow our family without any assistance in 2017. This was when a lot of our friends were getting pregnant, so we started to have baby fever. In 2018, I went to my primary care and told her we were struggling. And she told me that I would have to actively try for 1 year and use ovulation strips before I could get a referral from her to see a fertility specialist. And this is even though we had already been trying for over a year. But because that wasn't discussed with my doctor, documented, and we weren't using ovulation tests, it didn't count. Once we got our referral, we began seeing fertility specialists at the end of 2019 into the beginning of 2020. As you can imagine, I don't know, I would hope you can see where this is going. The pandemic hit. We had to put everything on hold again. Eventually, they opened the clinic back up, and we were able to come back and start treatments. I had to go alone, though, because of COVID. I would have to go my appointments were based on my cycle, and I had to take medication to get my cycle. I, at the time, was working for the county courthouse, and originally my supervisors told me they would work with me with my appointments, and they understood that it required flexibility. But when it came down to it, they held it over me, and they would wait until a few minutes before I was supposed to leave to go to my appointment to tell me if I could go or not. And they would blame it on coverage. It was super fucked up. I realized, that's kind of when I realized that they only really had favorites that they would, basically allow to do whatever. Because when they would deny me going to my appointment that was already scheduled, they were allowing other people to leave and do whatever the fuck they wanted. And so, because I wasn't, the favorite or whatever, I was not getting any special treatment, and the original agreement was not being honored. So it became really stressful to the point where I was having regular panic attacks. I would show up at my appointments already stressed. My blood pressure and heart rate would be higher than normal. And they even would tell me stress would make this process much more difficult. So I ended up having to quit my job because it came down to a choice. Either I stay at this job and remain stressed every day, or I leave this job and hope that I can grow my family. So anyways, after monthly treatments for about a year, nothing was working. We decided to pause because the emotional and physical toll it was taking on both of us was crazy. It was harming our sex life. We both were just so tired and stressed all the time. It was really, and we were just really fucking sad, to be honest. Everyone around us kept having babies, including my sister-in-law. So seeing my niece born was amazing, but also heartbreaking. And the cycle just continued. If we would have kept going with treatments, the next step for us was IVF. And as I mentioned before, it's incredibly expensive, and most insurance does not cover it. And we have shitty insurance, so it definitely is not covered. Now employers are starting to offer some coverage, but again, it's minimal. So for instance, like our insurance right now that we just got, they just added fertility coverage, but I think it's only up to $5,000. So we were also told that even with IVF, our chances were pretty low on success. So we had to contemplate how many times we would be willing to do this. How many times would I be able to put my body through this? And as we took time to think about it, it's when my mental health was at its worst. So I had to start therapy, and I started seeing a psychiatrist and was put on meds for anxiety, depression, and ADHD. In 2022, I miscarried. It was around the 4th of July. Another surprise, as we didn't know I was pregnant. We were about 7 to 8 weeks in. The grief from this was devastating. And this was a year after we had stopped treatment because nothing was working. And I was just starting to get acupuncture because I was desperate. And we believe that may have helped me get pregnant, but my body still rejected it and was unable to carry the pregnancy for more than 6 to 8 weeks. I saw another specialist and was told that I've had many micro miscarriages, or the correct medical term is biochemical pregnancies or missed miscarriage. And yes, that's a thing. And I didn't know that. My acupuncturist believed that I could still conceive. She had a lot of hope because she was able to have success with her other patients. So I kept getting treatment for over a year. And again, had a miscarriage and no success. So I had to pause that because it was starting to get really expensive. Insurance also doesn't cover acupuncture. I've tried so many supplements and remedies, I have lost count. Throughout the grief and pain, we have strengthened our marriage and closeness. We began to rely on our communication in deep talks. We have had to have some really hard conversations about our journey and whether we should keep trying. We've talked about the risks of fertility treatments and IVF because I have a higher risk of getting cancer or things going wrong during a procedure. We never really stopped trying. I mean, we've had unprotected sex for 12 years, but my body just can't do it. And I have wrestled with the why, the what ifs, and how come me for so long. It consumed me. My heart has been broken so many times. I have contemplated whether it was my sexual trauma that caused my infertility. I've thought about all the possible causes or reasons. And actually, this journey was what started my deconstruction journey because I was so angry with God, and I still am. So yeah, even though this story may seem really sad or hard to hear, I know it's depressing. We've lost a lot of friends and people in our lives because our story was hard to hear or be around. We have lost people because they kept growing their families and they felt uncomfortable around us or felt the need to walk on eggshells or not tell us they were pregnant because they knew it would hurt. Most of all, we have experienced loneliness because of this struggle. Even though we have each other, it felt like we couldn't find friends that understood what it was like. We're still trying to find the right couple who gets it, and I'm not sure if we ever will, but that's something we haven't given up on. So throughout this journey, I've learned to become an advocate. I began working with Resolve, and we meet with legislators every year to present infertility bills to them. It has taken years, but we are starting to slowly see progress all over the US. But I do want to emphasize slow. This journey has taught us how resilient we are. It's taught us our strength and courage. It has shown us our weaknesses. It has forced us to look ourselves in the mirror and face the resentment and anger toward ourselves. I've been so angry with my body for so long. It has taught us who our true friends are. It has taught us that we are still a family unit even without kids. It has taught us how to live child-free. And it has also taught us that we can still help other children and be a part of their lives, even if they're not ours. And that is the gist of my story. I finally felt ready to share, and there are a lot more details and caveats to our journey. So if anyone does have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But I just hope that by sharing this, it reaches somebody else who understands and who is going through it. And I hope that it offers even just a little hope. Even if you are someone like us who cannot grow your family naturally. And if you are not open to considering other options like adoption or surrogacy, because also very expensive. And that's just the thing. How can people expect us to just adopt or get a surrogate? I mean, surrogacy, I believe alone is like minimum 40 grand, and I'm sure that's gone up. I've worked on a couple surrogacy cases when I was a paralegal, and I saw the fees and what people were paying. So it's a lot. Same with private adoption. It can be very expensive. And also, you have to be medically approved, and the restrictions are very strict on whether you can be approved to adopt or not. Same with foster care. That's a whole other can of worms, though. So, needless to say, I wanted to share this so that others who are going through infertility don't feel alone, and so that you feel heard and validated, because I see you. I feel you. You're not alone. And as hard as this journey is, there are a lot of things that I'm grateful for. And I think the main thing I'm most grateful for is my husband, because he's been my rock throughout all this. And I don't think I could have done this without him. So, and on that note, we have come to the end of the episode. So I hope that everybody got something out of this, whether you're going through this journey yourself or you know someone that is. I hope that it prepares you to support your loved ones, because God knows they need it. And with that, I bid you all a farewell for now. May Loki be with you.